And for our last presenter, before we have our last open forum and then our lunch break, she holds a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education with a major in Social Science degree. Her scholarly pursuits center around sociological research on poverty and the rights of impoverished communities within the urban setting. Throughout her career, she has been an influential leader, serving as the president of the Teachers Association. Currently, she is a university director for internship at Cebu Technological University, where she continues to shape the next generation of educators and social scientists. Her dedication to her field, her community, and her advocacy truly embodies the spirit of a compassionate and influential educator. Let us give a round of applause for Dr. Rhea Fabrica.
Good noon, I guess, and I hope I will not stand between you and your lunch and how eager we are to have our lunch. So before I begin, with utmost respect and appreciation, I acknowledge Mr. Romeo Turing Jr. for his meticulous and comprehensive research on Tuslob-buwa. A significant alignment exists between our findings. However, one notable distinction emerges. Romeo contends that Tuslob-buwa does not manifest as a product of desperation, but rather a testament to innovation, asserting that he never heard from any of his informants that Tuslob-buwa is a product of desperation to survive. Allow me to articulate my perspective on the economic role of Tuslob-buwa as a survival mechanism within a specific impoverished area in Cebu City, which constitutes the exclusive focus of my study. Next slide. This study holds deep personal resonance as it unveils a transformative perspective on the neighborhood I called home 43 years ago. My aim is to craft a narrative that explores my own journey of rediscovery, a story of reconnecting with the people I once knew but have been separated for 3 long decades. Next. This study employed key informant interviews and personal interviews, and then the key informants were based on the familiarity that I had with them. Employing a qualitative approach, this study aimed to gather rich and in-depth information. Participants? Yes. Let's go to the introduction that's done. Next. Okay, it seeks to answer. Asan na? No, balik. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Naratol kay I have lesser time. This case study delves into the prevalent street vending, particularly Tuslob-buwa, in one of the slums of Cebu City. It seeks to answer the questions. Unsay mga nagkadaiyang naagian ug mangkasinatian sa pagpaninda og Tuslob-buwa, unsay mga aksyon nga mahimo aron magarantiya ang pagpadayon sa negosyo nga Tuslob-buwa ug masiguro nga kini luwas ug limpyo. Next slide. Go to the results and discussion, please. Okay. The result of question number 1 revealed the following themes. Majority were under economic significance in a taste that's built on trust. Innovative community recipe, preservation, and cultural identity, and challenges resilience and complacency to the imminent co-optation. Next slide. On economic significance and the taste that's built on trust, these are the answers that were lumped into under one theme. Persistent food insecurity and inadequate nutrition are widespread in impoverished communities, especially in urban informal settlements. The study highlights the significant economic role of Tuslob-buwa in slum areas, serving as a crucial source of income for marginalized individuals and families without formal employment opportunities. Both sellers and consumers are typically residents and informal settlers of the barangay, residing in makeshift houses without basic amenities. Due to the lack of proper kitchen facilities, Many residents prepare and consume meal outdoors or depend on street food vendors for affordable and accessible options. Tuslob-buwa emerges as a lifeline for these communities grappling with economic challenges. Gupta discovered that consumers' perspectives on the risks and benefits of street foods are interconnected. The perceived benefits, including convenience and value, strongly shape consumers' overall attitudes towards street foods. Greater perceived benefits lead to more positive attitudes among consumers, being barato, lami, naara sa tugaran, are among the perceived benefits of Tuslob-buwa. The economic significance of Tuslob-buwa vending extends far beyond the immediate vendors, bolstering the resilience of slum communities and playing a vital role in the community's survival. Kimani Morage et al. Revealed that slum areas deal with a chronic crisis state. Unlike rural populations that tend to have periods of plenty and periods of hardship, slum dwellers have a more daily challenge of how to put food on the table. Saying, kasagaran mga tao dire, nagdagko nas Tuslob-buwa, na nga po na gani ang uban. That explains the chronic crisis state. Unlike the people in the mountain, wherein when it is harvest time, then they've got plenty to eat. But people in the urban areas, it is a constant struggle to put food on the table. Next would be the overlooking nutritional values. They know, taas man kaayo ni og kolesterol. Basta wala lang kay high blood, okay raman ni kanon. Dili lang permihon. Barato man, naa sa dool. So they know the health risk. In Turing's study on Tuslob-buwa, respondents in Pasil and mainstream vendors expressed heightened health concerns despite lacking medical expertise. They unanimously recognized that the high cholesterol content in pork brain could lead to health issues like obesity, hypertension, cardiac problems, stroke, and even cancer. Tuslob-buwa could only have originated in Pasil, in a neighborhood where close-knit community life is superior to individual sanitation, and in the slums where food subsistence triumphs over nutrition, asserts to reign. So meaning to say, they would set aside nutrition if just to give way to the community life of sharing Tuslob-buwa together. Tuslob-buwa has effectively satisfied the requirements of price, accessibility, and instant cessation of hunger, even if there are unaddressed health risks related to long-term consumption of its main ingredient, pig's brain. Trust serves as a bedrock upon which Tuslob-buwa has thrived for over 4 decades, earning its place as a perennial favorite meal choice for 3 generations. Kaning mga bataa, mga anak naman nis mga suki nako sa una. So probably some of their parents died from whatever illness caused by consuming Tuslob-buwa, but nevertheless ang mga apo nagkaon gihapon, and that will strengthen the chronic crisis state. Basta makakaon kaysa matuog ka nga dugay pa bitaw tong mamatay, basta karon I am full, I'm nakakaon ko. The respondents' responses, emphasizing their trust in the vendors, aligned with the findings of Rhinelander et al., which revealed that consumers frequently prioritize affordability and accessibility over food safety concerns. As a result, consumers employ risk avoidance strategies, evaluating factors such as cleanliness, appearance, and the vendor's worthiness when making their food choices. Next slide. These are verbatim answers which I don't want to translate in English. Kay Chris man kaayo tagumkum kaayo paminahan kong Bisaya, no? And those are their answers. Next slide. There you go, the accessibility and cheap, and then with sense of pride, makaingon sila, taga-squatters ray pwede mo kaon ani, kanang dili arte. Ang squatter maning kauna, ma'am. So, nangupya ra ang uban kay sikat naman. If you go back to my title, I was assuming that they are scared and they have fears for the possible co-optation nga gikawat, which actually is happening because of last year's dispute between the Azul owner who would want to patent Tuslob-buwa nga siya ay nagunabat. The Pasil would not give up that easy, and so there was a little dispute on who really started Tuslob-buwa. So sila, I was assuming that they were scared na mabawi, i-co-op siya for the people, for the middle-class businessmen. But it's actually happening now. I know. One is situated at San Carlos, Maine, the Brain Delicious, wherein you don't necessarily have to eat together with the strangers. You are to eat with the people that you know who are not having tuberculosis and other infectious diseases. So this middle class businessmen are actually repacking and rebranding. And repacking and rebranding is actually co-opting, sanitizing Tuslob-buwa. It can, while it is a poor man's meal, it can also be a rich man's meal, like 500 pesos only Tuslob-buwa, and which is common to the people in your age bracket. Next, Subal and Bisoni delve into the intricate relationship between economic constraints and the preservation of culinary traditions that have been transmitted across generations. Food choices are intricately shaped by various factors, including food events, cultural values, and individual attributes, available resources, social influences, and the immediate context. This complex interplay gives rise to a personal food choice system where values and preferences are developed over time. Tuslob-buwa, cherished in the community for over 4 decades, is considered a heritage food, deeply linked to the barangay's identity, a multi-generational tradition, a contributor to community and culture. Resilient throughout history and a source of local pride, the development of food heritage in lower income areas involves a complex process rooted in community tradition, as what mentioned by TISA as a TISA festival, and earlier during the speech of Dr. Mojares. Next, again with pride and ownership, taga-squatters try mukaon ani. It keeps on lingaw og daghan magdungan, dili pud alkansi sa protein because it is 5 to 8 people who would gather in a boiling pot. Next, on the theme challenges, resilience, and complacency, and to the imminent co-optation, we have identified 3. Hygiene and sanitation pose significant hurdles as slum-based foods often operate in unsanitary conditions due to limited access to clean water. So I know that most of you, if not all, have experienced eating Tuslob-buwa, wherein that is why the picture I've used is a puso, because Tuslob-buwa cannot be enjoyed without puso. Hindi man siya pwede. Hindi puso. Now imagine yourself biting the puso. You cannot possibly swallow 1 dip and 1 puso. Kung gutom kay ka, pwede. But you need to bite it first bite up to 3rd bite kay mapasok man ka kung gamay na. So imagine the saliva. I'm sorry. Because we are trying to imagine how these people would set aside the risk of contamination in consuming Tuslob-buwa. So you would bite your first bite, and then you'll dip it again. And there are 5 to 8 of you, and you don't know these people who are eating with you. Next, vendors who had no formal training in food hygiene and safety appeared to vend food in premises with poor environment. So daplin sa kanal. Okay, kanal man na may space sa slum. So diha sila. Okay? Okay, we move to complacency to the imminent co-optation. Next, please. Next. More. do I go to the conclusion? Go back, one more. The presence of yes, no, more. Okay, legal ambiguity is another challenge. Hermani and Kalimapur finds that there is a lack of alignment between the national policies and the local policy towards informal street vending, in addition to the disconnect between progressive development policy frameworks and repressive restrictive implementation practices. If they are paying barangay fees for vending, then it is a responsibility of the local government to make sure that they are operating safely and for the benefit of the consumers and the sellers. Conclusion. The practice of Tuslob-buwa vending tells a tale of survival. For the respondents, Tuslob-buwa is a lifeline, a strategy to endure each day, a method of coping with economic challenges, and a response to the persistent state of crisis. Tuslob-buwa as a street vending practice is a call for assistance to the local government. It urges prioritization in barangay projects, including seminars on food safety, access to loans and not to loan sharks Indian, and the establishment of the designated space for them to conduct their business peacefully. Residing below the poverty line, consumers and sellers, both Tuslob-buwa in the area overlook the health hazards tied to the way Tuslob-buwa is consumed. The communal practice of 4 to 6 individuals sharing a single boiling pot, using bare hands for dipping and re-dipping the puso after multiple bites, possess a potential risk of contamination, including tuberculosis and other infectious diseases. On the issue of imminent co-optation, the vendors don't feel particularly threatened by the emergence of new Tuslob-buwa business in the city, as they have built a dedicated and loyal customer base within their community over the decades. While other Tuslob-buwa vendors may offer a more polished presentation and emphasize food safety, they cannot overshadow the original sellers who continue to thrive based on affordability. Recommendation. Based on the findings, it is strongly advisable to conduct a more in-depth and focused study on Tuslob-buwa vending, aiming to uplift both sellers and consumers from the state of chronic crisis, with the goal that is to establish a sustainable Tuslob-buwa model that prioritizes safety, avoiding unnecessary risk, and ensuring that survival doesn't necessitate compromising well-being. Thank you.